So my husband is a pastor, and so everything that he talked about, I was able to have in my classroom. So I had collaboration with the pastor. He was there all the time, so it was really good. The only thing I would say to you is what was really funny is my husband, one day I was sick. It's really hard to be a teacher and be sick because it's hard to get subs, and then, so it's not even a good thing to be sick. So he came in one day, and about 10 o'clock he called me. He goes, "I can never be a teacher. I can't understand how you guys do this all day long." And this was only 10 o'clock. And I was like, "What am I going to do?" I said, "I really am too sick to come." And so he said, "I'll figure it out." I said, "I wish I had Velcro on the wall. I'd just stick them all to the wall." But I said, "Take them outside and just run and just play outside." So he made it, but he loves teachers, and he said, he said that he have the most important job, and I will support them forever. So if you're a pastor, you can have him sub for a day, and he will appreciate everything that you do. So, yeah, pastors are such an important part of your school. So use them as much as you can. So I'm going to use my little clicker here. I wish I had a clicker like Jeremy. That was good. So parents, the other important people in your community, let me tell you, very important members of your classroom community are parents. Very vital that you start your year with a relationship. And I could say when I started, I didn't do this as much. My parents were there, but they're so busy, and they're like, "We can't do stuff." But I realized that no matter if they're busy, there's certain things that they can do to help, and you need to get them involved in your classroom. It's so much better together with your teachers. Build those bridges, not walls, between yourself and your parents. Because I know as I visit my teachers, I hear them say, "Oh, there's that one parent." We always have that one parent maybe that, it's hard to communicate with. But find a way to use them and to have relationships with that one parent, with all of them, because it's so very important. So here's the 3 C's to a better parent-teacher relationship, and then it will be student success. So make sure you connect. And I know some of my teachers, I look at Suzanne and Travis, they have like 20 kids in their classroom. That's a lot of parents that you have to connect with. But it's worth it if you connect with them, because you'll have less troubles, always. So let's talk about connecting first. Maintain contact with your parents. And that might be every day for the first few weeks, and there are certain times in the year it might be every day, definitely every week. So here's some ways you can connect, and I'm sure there's a ton of other ways that you can. Make sure you send a letter to your families before school starts. I started visiting the homes, taking things to them, making sure that you connect with them. It's so very, very vital. Even the ones that have been there forever, they love for you to come to their house and bring a little pack, and the kids are like, "It's my teacher, yay!" But make sure you connect with them. And then send ahead of time the school supply list, because they're buying supplies in the summertime. Walmart has stuff out way ahead of time. So send your stuff way ahead of time, so maybe your school can be on that list at Walmart of the schools. Intentionally connect at church. You see them and say, "Hello, how are you? It's nice to see you," and make those connections too at church. Call them by name. I have a hard time remembering names. I really struggle with that, and I have to work hard at that. But make sure you remember their names and talk to them. A lot of times, I've seen more in the last few years, teachers out at the door when families come. They pull up in their line now. It wasn't that way when I was teaching. They pull up now, the kids are there, wave at them, greet them. And when they leave school now, teachers are out. They go to the door, they go to the car and say, "Hey, how you doing? Your kid, we had a great day," and this and that. So make sure you make those efforts to see them and communicate with them. Home and school is a really great thing. If your schools don't have that, and I know they're going to probably talk about it, or they did, try to get a home and school for your schools. Find somebody and get your parents, even your non-Adventist parents can be a part of that, and get them to help with that, because that will really strengthen your school. Because our non-Adventist parents have great ideas for fundraisers and ways that they can reach out in the community, and they can be a huge part of your school. Send a form, to your parents. How can you help? How can you volunteer in the classroom? And they might have ideas that you never thought about that they're willing to do for you. So find ways that they will help you in the classroom and use that. So communicate all different ways. So today, we have I have a lot of teachers that text pictures, they text things throughout the day, pictures of what the kids are doing during the day. Parents love that. They like to see their kids doing things. They like to know that their kid was kind today or did this or that. You know, it might be, maybe it's a thing you need to tell them, there might be something bad, but you know, try to say good things too. Just don't have that they were bad today, they did this or that. You've got to send good things too. But communicate, there's so many different ways. Newsletters, Friday letters home, all kinds. Just communicate as much as you can. So a lot of parents love having the orientations before school starts. Bring them in. So here's a picture of, in COVID, you know, they had the screen, they had the mask on. You know, a lot of our schools don't do that anymore, but some do. But bring your families together and do an orientation. I know one school does a corn roast every year. And so they have the families all come together before school starts, and they do a corn roast and a softball game, and they do a silent auction. They do different things, and they all come together and just have a lot of fun. So find ways you can bring your families together all the time. You put your home and school in charge of that, or your parents to help with that. Newsletters and Friday folders. Send out communication to your parents about how your students are doing, their kids are doing. They want to know if their kids, what they're learning. Make sure you're sending papers home to show that they're doing something at school. Make sure you're grading, and that you're every week. You've got to keep up with that so they see their kids are learning. That's the biggest thing. I get complaints sometimes is they don't know how their kids are doing. You know, you are responsible to make sure that they see how their kids are doing so they can help at home, so you can be partners in that. There's Jupyter, Fax Messenger, up-to-date grades. Make sure that you're doing all these things. You should have a yearly calendar. The conference sends you a calendar, and then you take that calendar and you make your calendar. Put as many activities on it, all the things, so they see what's happening in detail. Do it ahead of time. You should have this with your board and be able to do this ahead of time and plan your activities, plan as much as you can so they see what's going on, so they can make sure that they're there and say, hey, I could come and help drive on that field trip, or I'd love to be a part of that. So give them a calendar way ahead. Okay, collaboration. Parents can become your most valuable resources. So involve them in programs, field trips. Maybe they could help as classroom volunteers and be supporters. You kind of know your parents and where they could fit in and try to make those connections. So as parents and teachers, we are to cooperate with the divine teacher. They are to become collaborators with Christ, improving every opportunity to impart to men a knowledge of God. So, you know, as Jeremy said, we're to first teach our kids to love God and to be leaders in our church. But also, we are responsible for their academic success also. And that cannot happen if we don't have parents as our partners. They have to be partners with us in all those things. So parent-teacher conferences, I know you must have had questions about this. So when I started teaching, you know, they taught us, you know, you have your conferences with the parent there, and when I first did it, I was like, oh, I really don't like these. You know, I wish, you know, because the student wasn't in there, and I thought, man, the parent and I are talking about things, but the student's not here. And then when they went home, the student would tell them something different. So I went to one of those big conferences you guys are going to go to next year, and I went to a breakout. And it was on student-led conferences. And I was like, oh my goodness, it was revolutionary for me. And I was like, why didn't I think about this before? And I never went back. And so I'm just going to tell you, you may continue to do what you want to do with just the teacher and the parents, but when I added the student to it, I never had any problems anymore, never had issues with my families, because we all were together, we all heard the issues, and the kid couldn't go home and say, well, that's not true, whatever. We were all on the same page for the student's success. So that's kind of how I want to talk to you about parent-teacher conferences, and because it was revolutionary for me. So look at the kids sitting outside. The parents are nervous, the teacher's nervous, and the student is nervous because they don't know what's going to be said or what's going to happen. So everyone's a little stressful. But parent-teacher-student conferences are usually never stressful if you do it that way. I never felt stressed again. So think differently, think outside the box. So what I would do is I would have my students save pieces of work that they felt proud of. And so we kept them in a folder. Those are things we didn't send home in that quarter. And then before the conference, they would have to pick some things out that they weren't doing so well in too. So it was good things and things that they hadn't done such a good job. And so before the parent-teacher conferences, it takes a little while, we would practice how the conference would go. So we would talk about, you start with prayer, and the student, I'd have them lead out with prayer, and then I'd have them lead the conference. Say, here, Mom and Dad, here's some work that I do that's really good, that I'm really proud of, and then here's some work that or some areas I really need to grow in. And so they would show that, and then we'd show the report card, and then you show the map testing and things, and then it would kind of show where their areas of weakness are, or the really good areas are. So you kind of have to take that time and plan ahead to make sure the student knows what's happening, and so your time is away, so you just move right along. And so the students got used to that, just getting their folders together, getting them ready, and just being ready for that. So they came to the conference. Be prompt. Make sure you're there, you have everything organized, and you're there on time. Make sure you pray, like I said. And so usually if the student was super nervous, I would do that, but I encourage the student to do that. If you've ever heard of Ron Clark, he's really big about, getting kids to lead out, kids to have respect, kids to learn that. I love how he says, teach them how to say thank you, please, but to be leaders too. So have them lead out as much as possible. And, we want to appreciate our parents for coming to take the time to be there, because a lot of parents are busy, so appreciate and set that positive atmosphere. I, as the teacher, would always want to say positive things too about the student before they begin. There's lots of things that you can find to say positively about your students. So say as much as you can to set that tone, and it makes the student feel comfortable too. So as I said, I always let the student lead the conference, but I had prepared them so they felt confident to do that, even if they needed a little cheat sheet there to remind them what to say, and then show their works and be proud of the works they show. And then they need to be specific in the areas that they need to show where they're really good in or where they need improvements. And then show your evidence. Parents want to see that. You have your MAP scores now. There's beautiful family reports on there that you should print off and have there to show the families any projects or any tests. Then you talk about the steps getting there, the results of why, they're having issues in a certain area. And then you want to brainstorm. Have a little time where you talk to the parent, the teachers, and the students are all right there, how we can be better, how we can improve their learning and to make them successful. So talk together at that time. So these are your partners here. So be very friendly, attentive, eye contact. I'm continuously, I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I'm always telling her, look at your teacher in the eye when they're talking to you, look at them. Teaching them some of those skills that kids, I think, today do not have or we're losing. So look at them in the eye. Be there, be present there. And when you're done, just recap the things that they're good at, things that you want them to do when they go home, and just the next steps with their student, okay? Thank the parents very much. These are not long conferences because you have a lot that you've got to get through. You got 20 students back there, 20 sets of parents, so you've got to move it right along. So just take your time. But I'm just saying that was the big thing for me, is having student-led conferences. So if you choose to do it a different way, that's fine. You do how you are comfortable with. But for me, that was a game changer. So I think that's it. So follow through then. Some things I always would get back with my parents then. You text back, well, we talked about this, and I see improvements. They're doing better. They're getting better. Document always, all situations. Make sure you document things that are happening. And never lose sight of the fact that you and the parent are working together with the divine teacher. Remember to connect, communicate and collaborate and pray. It's such an important thing. I think as teachers, that's the huge thing. We pray all the time, like always. And I always teach my kids, you don't have to pray kneeling down. You might be just standing there in your mind, you're praying, or just quietly all the time. There's so many situations that you really need to keep God there and pray. But have those connections with your parents and you'll have a great year, believe me. So do you have any questions? Yes?
How long are the parent-teacher?
It depends. So some like they have 20 students, it could be 15 minutes, maybe 20. If you have time, and maybe if you set you have a few nights that you do it and you need to go longer, 30 minutes. So you go into your school and see what they are doing or what you're comfortable with. And you can change it from year to year. So there are some parents that do work later, and sometimes you have to be flexible to, for them to come in. So you can get it. You can go through in about 20 minutes. You could. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's your suggestion for team teachers from grades 6 to 10?
For what?
Team teaching for grades 6 to 10.
Oh, that's a good question. I would still have your own, because you're teaching your own subjects. Do your own quick. It might be a little quicker conference. I'd still have the conference alone, unless you and the other teacher want to do it together and you collaborate. It depends on your school. I mean, there's so many different things you can try to do. You can both be in there and talking, and you still have your students lead, both the subjects and have them, and you might save some time that way too. And collaboration. Yeah, team teaching is a great thing. Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. Good luck.